Hey guys, Marijka here at Mountain Public Library. Back with you today for a brand new month. And this month we are going to do poetic novels or novels in verse. So thought that was a good idea since April is Poetry Month. So to start off the first book, we have a nonfiction actually, and this book is called The Year of Goodbyes. So in 1938, Jetta Salzberg received this journal or autograph book for her friends and family and herself to write in. The interesting part about this is that this is the time, around the times where the Jews really in Germany really started to feel the force of the Nazi movement. So this is really the last year that Jewish people had any sort of that remaining sort of normalcy. So each page of this is a bit different because this is a combination of her journal plus her daughter then writing poems about what her mother has written or what was going on at the time. So it's these poems in the voice of her mother telling the story. So it's a little different, and it maybe kind of sort of fits in, but I felt that it was needed and it was a pretty interesting story. So that is The Year of Goodbyes, and it is by Debbie Levy. The next book that I have today is called Love That Dog, and this book is by Sharon Creech. So Jack thinks that writing poems is for girls and that poems in general are just for girls, and that's the excuse he uses for hating writing poems and reading poems. His teacher, though, keeps assigning poetry in this unit regardless of what Jack says or protests about. And the more that Jack is forced to write poems, the more that they start to make sense to him, and he starts to really grasp poetry and, fall in love with it, which is often why teachers do what they do, because sometimes they happen to know a bit more than you do. So this is a really great small read, and it is part of a little tiny series. So that is Love That Dog, and it is by Sharon Creech. Up next we have Land of the Cranes, and this book is by Aida Salazar. So I would like to start off that this book is really, really sad and very emotional, but it is very relevant and an absolute must read. It gives us a realistic glimpse into something that is a very serious issue that is affecting a lot of people at this moment. So the fact that this story is in verse, I firmly believe really truly gives the story that much more emotion, or a better flow for the emotion that is coming from this tale. So this book is about Bertata, and she is 9 years old. Her father has been separated from her and her pregnant mother because of migration issues, and he is arrested and then sent back to Mexico, leaving her and her mother to then live in a detention center. And they're forced to live in these just really horrific, extremely terrible conditions. And she's experiencing firsthand, and then you, through her words, get to also then get a glimpse or a minor experience of the discrimination and hatred that goes on in this country for immigration. So it's just really sad, but again, absolutely just necessary and just a really just great read for this time. So that is Land of the Cranes, and this is by Aida Salazar. So this is another really sad book. Sometimes I feel like books being in verse just portrays the emotion that much more. So when something is in verse, it could be that much more exciting or happy, or in the case of these two books, that much more sad. So this book is called Under the Broken Sky, and it is by Maiko Nagai. So this book follows Natsu and Asa as they flee Manchuria on foot near the end of World War II. So another kind of migration story, and what it means to sort of be an immigrant or a forced immigrant, as in sort of this case. So they're fleeing at the end of World War II, and then they live as refugees in Harbin, China. So this is a heart-wrenching take on the specific forced immigration that I had not necessarily heard of before. I really hadn't experienced a story like this or around these lines. Generally in World War II stories, we learn a lot about the Jewish side and the horrificness of the Holocaust, but this is a completely different side in the same era, and I feel like it is and includes voices that we really need to know. So it's just an amazing book, and this is Under the Broken Sky, and it is by Marijka Nagai. This book is called Knockout, and it is by K.A. Holt. It happens to be book 2 of this series. The first book is called House Arrest, but I do think that you could read this book without reading that book, or read this book in front of that book if you're okay with that. If you are not okay with that, I'm really sorry, but I'm giving you book 2. So this book is about Levy, and Levy has grown up with some really pretty devastating health issues in his life, and this has left his mother and his brother to be very, very overprotective. So Levi is trying to discover who he is, and he would like to try his hand at some sort of sport to help him kind of navigate where he fits into this. So his dad, through his dad's encouragement, he takes up boxing, which, is pretty cool, but he keeps it a secret. So he doesn't want his mom and brother to know. He doesn't want anyone to kill his vibe on this, and you gotta respect that. But when his secret and some new health issues come to life, Levi must be the strongest that he has yet have to have been in his life and fight for what matters. So this is Knockout, and it is by K.A. Holt. So this last book is super special, and it is new. This book, anyone who I have seen read it just has raved about it and talked about how amazing it is. This is another one that could possibly strike you as being sad. It is sad. That's just unfortunately. So this is Starfish, and it is by Lisa Fipps. So Ellie is bullied because of her weight, and her bullying isn't just happening at school, it's happening at home. And the worst person who bullies her is her own mother. And that is just heartbreaking and devastating. So obviously Ellie is really, really tired of it. And the only place that she ever feels great, because she also feels weightless, is in her pool. So just there. She feels weightless and free, and it's just enjoyable to not be heavy at that point, because everyone just puts so much pressure on her because of her weight. So it's just, but after her best friend moves, Ellie feels the most alone that she's ever felt. She has nobody left anymore, and some really kind of terrible things happen. It's terrible. So a new girl moves in next door, and Ellie starts to see a therapist, and good things are starting to come into her, and she starts learning how to stand up for herself and understand her self-worth. So it is a sad story, but it's also an amazing strength and growth story. And I do feel that this is such a story that could and should mean a lot to a lot of young kids, and not just necessarily about size, but about a lot of things that other people, that makes you stand out, or that other people can use against you, because you are you, and that honestly is what makes you the coolest. So there you go. So this book is Starfish, and it is by Lisa Fipps. So there you go. Those are my first little recommendations for poetic novels or novels in verse. I hope that you enjoy those, because they are really amazing books. And I will be back next week for week 2. Bye.